Уважаемые гости,
Dear guests,
мы предлагаем начинать
we suggest that we start this event. On behalf of the IOM mission to Belarus, I welcome all of you to this briefing dedicated to the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. Before we do the official part, I would like to make some logistical announcements. In the handouts that you have received, you can find the means of individual protection, face masks and sanitizers. Also, in the course of this event, you will be serviced by simultaneous interpretation. Those of you who forgot to take in simultaneous translation devices, you can take the headsets at the reception table over there. If you're ready, then we can start. Every year on July 30th, we traditionally get together to evaluate the efforts and results achieved in the field of combating trafficking in persons, also speak about the new trends and identify them, find new challenges and find new solutions. This year is indeed significant because this year is the 20th anniversary since signing the Palermo Protocol and the 20th anniversary of the global plan to combat trafficking in persons. Our speakers will speak more about this, of course. And IOM has always noted that Belarus has been an active part on the international arena to combat trafficking in persons and one of the initiators of many important global initiatives. That's why it gives me a pleasure to give the floor to Andrei Dapkunas, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Belarus. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, colleagues. We have gathered here today in this beautiful, picturesque place to commemorate the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. This is not a regular day. It's quite different from a multitude of other important days celebrated by international organizations which commemorate different subject matters. This year is not a matter or cause for celebration. The main significance of this day that it serves a symbol to recall the important pain that all of us carry, and also the shame of the whole mankind, that today, in spite of the colossal progress of mankind, the development of technologies and the advent of new principles of relations between nations and peoples, still we fail to eradicate this heinous crime. I'm talking about trafficking in persons. Perhaps you are aware that today is the day of important commemoration, which are in form of virtual conferences mostly in New York City to commemorate this particular day. Why we have gathered here in such great numbers? There are, of course, a lot of limitations related to the COVID-19 pandemic. But the actual number of people in this virtual room could have been much greater. But still, this format impresses us. It is right here in Minsk. I don't know about other neighboring countries whether they celebrate the same day in the same manner, but to explain to those people who don't fully realize the level of attention paid to this day by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and our respected partners to this topic, that this commemoration in Minsk is not an accident. It is upon the request from Belarus, upon the initiative of Belarus. This idea was eventually included into the UN resolution, which was eventually adopted many, many years ago. Naturally, Belarus was not the first in the combating efforts with this crime. We respect a lot the contributions of our important partners. Some of them are present here at this event. Others are watching us by video feed. Those countries, international organizations, NGOs, which considered it important to show their initiative and combat this evil. The initiative of Belarus was vocalized about 15 years ago, 5 years after the adoption of those significant, groundbreaking documents that signify the combating trafficking in persons. I'm talking about UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime and the Protocol to Prevent, Suppress and Punish Trafficking in Human Beings, Palermo Protocol. In 2005, at the UN summit, the president of Belarus voiced an idea or an initiative to create a global partnership to combat trafficking in persons. The fact that many nations and institutions and people were doing the same thing, but we felt at that time that the level of organization and coordination left much to be desired. And we offered instead to think how to make our common effort, raising funds which are not limitless, more efficient than before. And throughout all these years, the 20 years, throughout which Belarus, which was, by the way, one of the first countries in the former Soviet Union area, started to pay attention to this problem, attempted to make additional steps to make this common fight more impactful. I'm going to outline some of the stages of this combat. I'm not going to go through all the resolutions adopted by the UN General Assembly, but first of all, this is the consensus of all the member states of UN to agree how we are going to combat this crime. Upon the decision of the UN General Assembly, a special interagency group against trafficking in persons was established, known as ICAD, which is an important joint team which makes a worthy contribution into this effort. An important milestone in this combat was 10 years ago when in New York City the Global Action Plan to combat trafficking in persons was adopted. This idea, again, was born not out of thin air, but because of the discussions and considerations that took place in the group of friends established upon the initiative of Belarus. One of the principal contributors, or one of the important results, outcomes of this global fund to assist victims of trafficking in persons. And these are just some of the elements of this effort, of this institutional endeavor, if you will, but resolutions have little meaning vis-a-vis our feelings of the need, personal need, not institutional need, to combat this evil. Belarus believes that people are more important here. First of all, people come first. We need to, of course, fight the perpetrators, and it is our law enforcers who are trying to fight them and trying to eradicate this crime. The people that we care about are the victims who require our assistance and support and understanding. And people for us are partners, the fighters with this crime. Nations, international organizations, civil society, business community, mass media, and individuals who, through their personal example, try to show that something needs to be done, so that an understanding comes that the mankind is not doomed to live with this evil forever. Now we're speaking about the combating trafficking in persons, but this is a unification effort, which is deemed to unify efforts of all people who want to do good. How to make this cause more efficient? It is truly applicable to this subject and other subjects like combating the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic and others. The context that we work in is very similar, and would like to make sure that the commemoration of this day would remind us of this principle that only together, only through better understanding, only in our greater willingness to understand our partners and friends, not to divide the glories. The glory will come when we will overcome, but now we're talking about how to make sure that our prodigy and children would read about slavery only in the history books. I would like to thank our partners who made their utmost. I'm talking about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Organization for Migration, and numerous other partners present at this event. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your participation. Thank you. Thank you, Andrei. Again, I would like to say that Belarus is not only active at the international arena by calling for unification of efforts of all the governments and nations, but does a lot at the national level. That's why I would like to invite to this stage Dmitry Tsayun, Deputy Head of the Chief Directorate for Drug and Human Trafficking Enforcement.
Thank you very much. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Ministry of Interior and personally, I'd like to thank the organizers of this event. They are reliable partners. Not only do they provide meaningful assistance to Belarus in fighting trafficking in persons, but they do acknowledge the national effort made by Belarus to fight trafficking. I'd like also to extend my gratitude to IOM office in Belarus. I believe this organization is our key partner in fighting trafficking of persons. There's a multitude, there's been a multitude of events and initiatives that we've done together, and they are quite prominent for Belarus and for law enforcement in Belarus. The trafficking in human beings is quite a salient issue for this country and for the entire world. This is a type of transnational crime which generates colossal incomes, similar to trade in drugs and weapons. Law enforcers have tried to do their best to put this situation under control and to suppress it. We suppressed more than 700 channels of human trafficking in Belarus, both incoming and outgoing. Our traditional destination and origin country, Russia, European Union, and Asian countries. 444 crimes have been identified since 2004, 22 organized crime rings, and 87 groups were exterminated. Belarus usually is a country of origin as far as trafficking in human beings is concerned. We do attach a lot of importance to fighting this evil locally and internationally. We are signatories and members to all key international agreements, and also we are quite acting quite vigorously to expand this struggle. The July 30th has become an international day against trafficking in persons. This is where we bring our efforts together to fight this evil. There's a national plan on fighting trafficking in human beings, and their governmental programs therein. Last one is for 2020-2022. This is on fighting crime and corruption. There is a law on anti-trafficking, which included the best world experience and practices. We've developed a national definition of trafficking, exploitation, child porn, and indecent images. And we have developed a national mechanism of identification, and which is part of the governmental resolution. And there are other legislative acts, which includes referrals as well, and which are designed to help victims of trafficking of persons. There is a package of instruments which includes the improvement of national legislation and other activities of the ministries, international organizations, and coordination of effort. That includes training, international cooperation, and statistics development, which you can find stats on our website. Working together with international organizations, we implement international technical assistance projects, and other forms of cooperation are also carried out. The clean trafficking, so to speak, has dropped thanks to these efforts, and there are usually other associated crimes identified, mostly the use of prostitution, the use of children in pornography. But there are new challenges out there, key of them being dissemination of new technologies. This is, of course, a good for humanity and civilization, but they are also utilized quite successfully by the criminal rings and those who are engaged in trafficking. Modern traffickers try to be a step ahead of law enforcers, and using the advantages of internet, and which helps cover up the tracks. The trafficking can now be organized just with the help of a computer from your desk. Sex violence against children is also a source of concern. Unfortunately, pedophiles have migrated to internet, and it's hard to find and identify them. They can act and they pretend being someone else, and acting as if children of the same age. They do sextortion, sexting, and this is how they engage children. It's not just about psychological detriment. This is also a part of preparation of children for sexual contact. Also, the organized begging is another form of crime. This makes our job so much different in terms of finding proofs. Therefore, and that includes grooming as well. We need to move on and also use the modern technologies to fight modern slavery and to continue international cooperation as vigorously as possible. On behalf of our ministry, I'd like to state that this event should become another important instrument in addressing these challenges and joining effort to combat trafficking in persons. So the best of luck to you. Thank you. World Day Against Trafficking in Persons is also a UN theme day, but there are other factors involved all the time. Gender equality, for example, and HIV, other vulnerable factors. This is also connected, and those are the issues that are part of the UN mandate. Therefore, please welcome the UN coordinator, resident coordinator, Jana Vishnevetsky.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Здравствуйте.
It is my great pleasure to welcome you this morning to this beautiful park, to this event devoted to the work against trafficking in persons. After our guest, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, I will not be able to speak in Belarusian, but I have prepared to speak in the Russian language, so I will continue in Russian. Приветствую всех здесь от меня.
So I'd like to welcome all of the members of the team of international community and international organizations, those involved in combating trafficking in human beings, those doing their pieces of work, those who are involved in so many different things that are connected to this struggle. On behalf of the Secretary General and this, I'd also like to greet you and send his regards. This is, of course, a violent crime which involves egregious violation of human rights. Day by day, humans are exploited so that traffickers can make money. Poor and vulnerable groups of populations are the subject of the highest risk. In 70% of cases, victims are women and girls. Almost a third of victims are children. And the humanitarian aspect we've discussed a lot. All countries of the world, the countries of origin, transit, or destination are affected by this traffic in the conditions of the COVID-19 pandemic. The danger of human trafficking is rising. Unemployment, increasing poverty, closure of schools, and the rise of virtual interaction increases vulnerability and opens up new possibilities for organized crime. The World Anti-Trafficking Day, the Day Against Trafficking in Persons, this day is dedicated to those who provide the first aid and those who are on the front line. Those are law enforcement agencies, social workers, medical personnel, and staff of NGOs and other people who are involved in the human rights, who help protect the interests and rights of vulnerable groups. Most of those people happen to be women. Much has been said about the role of Belarus on the international level, on the international platform, in terms of organizing international cooperation around this topic. And in terms of a number of action plans and resolutions, UN resolutions, and this work continues in Geneva, in Vienna, and in New York. I'd like to underscore the significant role of Belarus and the role of other countries and other partners who are here on the ground and partner together with the Ministry of Interior and partner together with other agencies, include, of course, IOM, to implement the projects we have been talking about. On behalf of the country team in Belarus. I'd like to extend my gratitude to you and to identify some of the new aspects of these activities. Much has been said about it, but this is the beginning of cooperation on the world level: cyber terrorism, fighting cybercrime. Two important events took place in Belarus in 2018 and 19 about fighting cyber terrorism, because cyber terrorism is a factor of this type of crime, and therefore cooperation is so much important in this area as well, because we need this to fight the human trafficking as well. We'll continue this cooperation, and we hope it'll be just as close with the MFA, because MFA is the go-to party for international cooperation in Belarus, as well as with the Ministry of Interior of Belarus. But I'd also like to emphasize the role of Ministry of Public Health, the Ministry of Social Policy and Labor. They also make tremendous contribution. So thank you very much, and I congratulate all of you on this International Day. This is a very useful meeting of for those who care, because you understand how much it affects the families, younger generation, and the future of all the countries represented here today. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Ioanna. IOM is one of the leading organizations in terms of fighting human trafficking. We celebrate an anniversary today. 25 years ago we started these programs. Therefore, I'd like to welcome Oraz Muhamedova, the representative of IOM in Belarus.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished Mr. Dapkunas, Ms. Ioanna Kazanowicz-Niewiecki, representative of the Ministry of the Interior. On behalf of the International Organization of Migration, I would like to welcome everybody at today's briefing dedicated to the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. I would also like to express sincere gratitude to co-organizers of this event, that is the Ministry of the Interior of Belarus, the Foreign Ministry of Belarus, as well as our partners, such as the USAID and the Foreign Ministry of Norway. As it had been mentioned previously, today we are commemorating the 20th anniversary since the adoption of the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime and its historical protocol to prevent, suppress and punish trafficking in human beings, especially women and children. This protocol has established the first internationally recognized definition of trafficking in persons, the definition that has stood the test of time. Today we are also commemorating the 10th anniversary since the adoption by the UN General Assembly of the Global Action Plan to combat trafficking in persons. I would like to note that Belarus has been an active participant of this really significant international action plan by providing its financial support to the Fund of the Victims and also making contribution to the global response to this global challenge. IOM is also celebrating an anniversary this year. It's the 25th anniversary since the adoption of programs to combat trafficking in persons, and I would like to know that in Belarus this work is done since 2002. This anniversary is a very apt moment for all of us to start thinking about what has been done in the field of combating trafficking in persons and how the landscape of this combat has changed in the past 20-25 years, and to study and inspect other problems that we have yet to address, together with the Ministry of the Interior and the Foreign Ministry, and as well as other institutions and NGOs and civil community organizations. A lot has been achieved in Belarus in the combating of trafficking persons. First of all, we have raised the awareness of general population on their risks of becoming a victim, and we have informed them of the safe channels of going abroad. We have provided more assistance to the victims of trafficking. We have built the capacity of law enforcers who are involved in combating trafficking persons, as well as the training center of migration and trafficking persons has been established under the Ministry of the Interior. And all of this was done through a holistic partnership in different sectors, in full accordance with the human rights principles, as well as in accordance with the clearly cut parameters suggested by the Palermo Protocol ever since 2002. And nowadays, the International Organization for Migration has identified and provided assistance to about 3,850 victims of human trafficking in Belarus. Ever since 2014, every year we traditionally organize joint topical events by launching information campaigns and drawing public attention to certain topical issues. This year, the focus of international attention is something that Ioanna already mentioned: people who are working on the forefront, who identify the victims, who provide them with assistance and fight for their rights. Under the COVID-19 pandemic, the role of specialists who are the first contact of victims is ever so important. That is why I would like to express the words of gratitude to our partner NGOs and specialists of concerned state institutions who work with the victims of human trafficking in their daily work. And today it gives me pleasure to say that in the fight with the modern form of slavery, every year active youngsters and business communities join us. One of the bright examples of this comprehensive cooperation in combating trafficking in persons is a successful organization of the summer camp, which is called Learn, Act and Share. It has been organized for the fourth time already. Just as in previous years, a joint initiative of UN, state organizations and private companies is commemorating the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. 18 participants selected by the jury have spent 5 exciting days that were full with trainings and lectures from experts who told the youth about the problems of trafficking in persons, the efforts of Belarus on the international and national levels, other relevant issues like gender violence, sustainable development goals, and so on. Today, we're going to launch the continuation of the program, Teach Your Children to See the Lies, that was started a year ago. My colleagues will make a short presentation of this later on. I would also like to underline that this campaign is our response to the trend that we cannot fail to observe in the past few years, because ever so often children are becoming victims of trafficking persons, subjected to sexual exploitation. I must also mention the COVID-19 pandemic, which introduced certain corrections into our anti-trafficking efforts, because the economic consequences of the pandemic increase the vulnerability of people and make them potentially more vulnerable to risky employment and potential exploitation. It is ever so important that the efforts of all our partners are united in the fight against trafficking in persons. As we have always been doing this, the community against trafficking in persons must develop and find ways to fit its new innovative methods to these new trends by finding new vulnerabilities and at the same time speaking in favor of human rights and preventing any abuse and attempting to find other resilient methods of living for those people who are on the move. IOM has always highly assessed the efforts of Belarus in the global endeavor to fight trafficking in persons. We continue to provide assistance to the government of Belarus. In conclusion, I would like to say that the combat with this heinous crime would be impossible if we don't work single-handedly. We sincerely thank all our partners for this cooperation and joint efforts in this field. Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to continued cooperation. cooperation. Thank
Спасибо
you.
большое, Махим.
Thank you, Mahim.
Мы действительно сегодня
Indeed,
говорим о
today
достигнутых
we're
результатах,
talking
и
about the achieved
мы
results,
хотим
and
рассказать сейчас
now we'd like
о
to use this
результате или
opportunity
инициативе, просто
to
о
tell
котором
you
мы не
about the
можем
results
не
and
рассказать, и
initiatives
про это
that
уже говорила
we
Махим.
must tell
Это
you about,
летний
and this is
молодежный
what
лагерь
Mahim
«Изучай, действуй,
already
поделись».
mentioned.
Это
We're talking
действительно
about the summer
инициатива,
camp
которая
Learn, Act
организована
and Share.
общими усилиями
This is
МОМ,
an initiative
МВД,
organized
МИД, всеми
jointly by
агентствами
IOM,
ООН,
Ministry of the
общественными
Interior, all the UN
объединениями. И
agencies
к нам
and
также
NGOs,
присоединился
and we were
и
also
частные
joined in
компании.
this effort by
Литература
private
Дел, Not a
companies,
Kitchen, ИПАМ, поэтому я с
EPAM,
удовольствием
Not a
приглашаю на
Kitchen,
сцену Татьяну
and
Виригову,
it gives me
руководителя
pleasure to
отдела по борьбе с
invite
торговлей людьми и
Natalia,
защите
head of the
мигрантов,
department
чтобы
on
рассказать про эту инициативу.
anti-trafficking department, who will tell us about this initiative. Dear guests, hello. I'm happy to have this opportunity to tell you about one of our initiatives, Summer Camp Learn, Act and Share, which is a bright example of our cooperation. As it has been mentioned this year, it's already a fourth time we organize the summer camp. We always organize it on the eve of the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons under IOM X campaign, Stop Trafficking in Persons. Our main goal is to help young people to make their contribution to this initiative against trafficking in persons and to involve them into the initiative Learn, Act and Share. Again, we had 18 participants this year who were selected by the jury on a competitive basis, who spent a whole week full of trainings, interactive sessions, lectures, hosted by experts from different agencies. It was done on the motto of this campaign, Learn, Act, Share. And this way, the participants of the summer camp have learned a lot of stuff. Now, hopefully, they will act and share this new knowledge with their friends, family, people who they know at the places where they study, work, in their towns and cities. We maintain the communication with our alumni from previous summer camps, and now we have information that our alumni have covered with their preventive measures at an audience of about 4,000 people. The summer camp is a joint initiative of the IOM, the Foreign Ministry of Belarus, and the Ministry of the Interior, organized with the support of the with the Resident Coordinator's Office, UNHCR, UNICEF, USAID, and Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Also, we're supported by the private business, such companies as EPAM, Legatura Bell, and Not a Kitchen. We are proud that this initiative deserves to be called and considered an initiative uniting the efforts of all the UN agencies. I would like to thank the donors and partners for their contribution and the interest shown to this initiative. Also, thank you for your attention, and I invite you now to watch a video which shows the impressions of the participants of this summer camp this year. My name is Katerina Nekrashevich, and I'm the participant of the fourth summer camp Learn, Act, Share, dedicated to trafficking in persons. All of us in this 1 week did not only look at the problem of trafficking from different angles, but also we found the same-minded people with whom hopefully we'll implement a number of initiatives and projects that will make this world better. I would like to say thank you to all the organizers and all the participants for this great friendly atmosphere and the knowledge received, and I hope that we'll meet you again offline. Hello everyone, I would like to share my impressions about my participation in the summer youth camp. I learned Act Share, organized on the basis of the International Organization for Migration. I would like to say that this camp fully justified all my hopes, because I wanted originally to participate in an event where you don't simply get some volume of information but will be able to act on it. Hello everyone, my name is Ilya. I'm a participant of the summer camp Learn, Act, Share of 2020, organized by the IOM, and I would like to share with you my impressions about this event. First thing that comes into my mind that I liked are the people who I was lucky enough to work with under this summer camp. It was the only place where I could see so many ambitious, initiative-driven, kind, very smart and highly developed people who are aspiring to organize something new, whose heads have many new project ideas, who have already organized many new things and have achieved a lot of things in life. And they don't want to stand still, and they have very ambitious goals ahead of them. And in future, I'm sure they will change our society and even maybe international community in general. Second thing I would like to say are the organizers who in this difficult environment managed to organize a high quality event for us. And indeed it was cool that so much time was dedicated to us, not only during the actual session but in the course of throughout the camp course, and I would like to thank them for that. Third message that I would like to share are the specialists that organizers invited for us. They're real professionals in their field, and each one of them has a lot of charisma that enchanted us and made us forget time and listen to them for hours, and many of them made very interesting reports and spoke not only about theory but also gave us food for thought and apply our critical skills, and was really multifaceted exercise, and hopefully it will be fixed in my head, and all the participants and specialists and organizers allowed me to cast a different look at some of the familiar things for me that I thought I knew everything about through a different prism, through a different context, and this way totally change my world outlook. So I'd like to thank everybody. Hopefully I will see you again in person. Everything was great and cool. I'm happy. Hello everyone, my name is Ulyan. I'm the participant of the summer camp organized by the OEM in 2020. This year, this camp was organized in a new format for us and for the organizers, in a digital format, virtually and in a distance way. It scared me a bit. It scared me, and I had a lot of apprehensions about this, because I personally didn't understand how, in what way are we going to communicate, in what way are we going to understand what we see and hear each other, and other aspects of interpersonal communication here and now. But organizers did a great job by organizing a distance online, remote online camp where we could exchange our opinions, where we could listen to the invited specialists, and it was indeed a great thing to participate in. I would like to hugely thank the organizers for what they did, for this job well done. We have used not only some standard methods of communication, we used all sorts of messengers, different platforms. We were testing new ways of networking. We gave each other likes in social media. I'd like to thank organizers for the invited specialists also, because I believe that this indeed is a unique experience that all of us have acquired, and we will act upon it in future. I'm madly happy for being participant of this summer camp, Learn, Act, Share. Here I met a lot of great guys with great ideas, astounding speakers who really invested their soul into this, and these people did everything humanly possible and their utmost to make this camp, although online, but a total success. I would like to thank you for this unreal, unthinkable opportunity in my life. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tatiana. Our team of young colleagues have grown by another 18 persons. Hopefully you have enjoyed, just like I, by watching this video, because these are indeed great guys, and hopefully they will delight us with new project ideas, and next year we'll be able to organize yet another summer camp. Hopefully it will be offline. We continue now, and now I would like to invite the next speaker. He comes from the United States of America. He's our traditional partner of Belarus in the field of combating trafficking in persons, to support the efforts of Belarus throughout many years. That's why today here is Jeffrey Juk, chargé d'affaires ad interim of United States and Belarus.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeffrey Turkomanu, Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Minsk. This is a great honor for me to make my first public speech in Belarus, and to make it here at this forum. This is an important topic for State Secretary Pompeo and for the government, the U.S. administration. I'd like to thank the Belarusian government for organizing this event. This is testimony to the progress we have made, but this is also a reminder of how much will have to be done. We must continue our fight against the termination of human trafficking, and Belarus can count on the U.S. as a partner in this struggle. Sex trade, coercive labor, and trafficking human beings is a global issue which affects U.S., Belarus, all the countries worldwide. While we're talking about the success, the traffickers continue to do what they do. Therefore, we welcome the commitment of Belarus and IOM and UN commitment to this struggle to protect our people. The 20th anniversary of the Palermo Protocol is an important landmark. The United States and Belarus were among of the countries who signed the protocol 20 years ago in the framework of OSCE, and on bilateral basis we continue to follow the main principles of the Palermo Protocol: punishment of traffickers, prevention and suppression of trafficking. I'd like to thank Belarus for long-term positive and constructive relations with the United States on multilateral platforms in the framework of UN. U.S. were co-authors of a number of resolutions which addressed human trafficking, initiated by the Republic of Belarus. The two countries support the global UN plan to fight trafficking in persons. The Belarus delegation to OSCE also participates actively in discussions dedicated to this topic. Of late, U.S. delegation and Belarus delegations co-authored a number of resolutions of the Council of OSCE. One of those decisions was approved a few years ago. We expect that the cooperation between our two countries will become even more positive in the framework of UN, in the framework of OSCE, and here in Belarus. Examples of joint work of Belarusians and Americans and international partners is testimony to the fact of how well we can do. During the last 15 years, more than 1,000 victims received reintegration package assistance. More than $3 million was allocated for prevention of trafficking and protection of victims in Belarus. The hotline, which is maintained by USAID, provides information about safe travel to 144 countries worldwide for Belarusians. Local NGOs and civil society, national and both regional, have helped more than 3,000 people acquire new labor skills. Over the last 3 years, trainings and information campaigns about trafficking in persons has covered dozens of thousands of Belarusians. For 20 years, the international community has worked together to suppress trafficking. The United States is committed to end this modern form of slavery, and it believes that Belarus is an important ally in this struggle. We continue to affirm that trafficking in person can never be justified, and we need to be ready to act decisively here and worldwide. When we celebrate the success, let's not forget about what we would have still to do.
Спасибо большое, господин
Thank you
Джо.
very much. Thank you very much, Mr.
Наряду с
Joe.
Соединенными Штатами Америки,
Along with the
одним из
United
традиционных
States,
партнеров
one of the
Республики
key
Беларусь
partners
в
of
области
Belarus
противодействия
in
торговли людьми
fighting
является
trafficking in
Королевство
persons
Норвегия.
is the
Поэтому мы приглашаем вас
uh,
посмотреть
Kingdom of
видеообращение
Norway.
господина
Therefore,
Фредерика Артура,
now
исполняющего обязанности
please
временного
welcome
поверенного
Frederick
посла Королевства
Artrik,
Норвегии в Украине.
Chargé d'Affaires of Norway in Ukraine.
Everyone, it's a great pleasure and honor for me to speak to this conference under the auspices of IOM. As a multilateralist, I'm also very happy that IOM is taking responsibility for this issue. The organization is very well placed since it is the Organization for Migration in the UN system. And being now a more integrated part of UN, it is also in a position to cooperate and to coordinate very closely with other relevant UN organizations, programs and specialized agencies. I have said repeatedly that human trafficking is a kind of modern slavery. I thought some years ago that the slavery society in London could have been abolished or disintegrated simply because I didn't know that slavery existed. But human trafficking is a kind of slavery, and unfortunately it affects everyone. It affects people irrespective of age, ethnicity, race, gender or religion. And it affects people in all countries, be it in rich countries, in Europe, in Africa, Asia, wherever, and poor countries as well. We know for sure through research and experience that people who are trafficked, they are very often exposed to violence, be it physical violence or psychological violence. Sometimes they are trafficked after having been given false promises, they are grossly manipulated, they have been promised a brighter future, jobs, marriages, and you name it. The only limit here is unfortunately the sky. Individuals who are trafficked, they are exposed also to great and serious individual trauma. And they are also grossly stigmatized, and that's a big problem because many of those who are trafficked hesitate to seek help wherever they can, be it at the law enforcement authorities, medical authorities or social authorities. But we should know and we should tell ourselves and remind ourselves that whatever we can do to prevent human trafficking or to help people who have been trafficked, we contribute to save a life. So those who are victims to human trafficking, they deserve and they should have help. They should have social help. They should have economic help, and of course medical help, and all sorts of help and assistance that's required to bring them back to a normal life in the society and in the community. And also, and that's important to emphasize, those who are perpetrators of human trafficking, they should be held accountable before a court of justice. We know also that people who are trafficked, they are, without going into details, very often vulnerable people, especially when it comes to women and girls, but we should never forget that also men and boys are trafficked. But I think in particular today, it's important to remind ourselves that crises of different arts, they tend to make these groups even more vulnerable than they are at the point of departure. That occurs during natural disasters, landslides, earthquakes, volcanoes, storms, hurricanes. It definitely happens during armed conflicts and war. And these days, I think we should remember and be aware that also the COVID-19 pandemic makes some groups more vulnerable than others and in this present situation. And as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to economic downturn somewhere, to an economic crisis, and to some extent also probably economic depression or recession. So to go back to the point of departure, this conference is extremely important. The title, as far as I remember, of the conference is to learn and to act and to share. We all have a responsibility to learn, even as individuals. We as individuals have the responsibility to act, And we have a responsibility, and we should encourage each other to share the knowledge and the competence that we get and which you will get through this conference. So I wish you all the best of luck in your endeavors. Thank you very much for your attention.
Мы обязательно передадим.
We will definitely extend our gratitude to Frederick Arthur for his video call. When we discuss human trafficking, we should mandatorily mention OSCE because they are one of the key partners in this field, and they are co-chairing the ICAT. So now a video message from Valiant Rigi, Special Representative of OSCE.
Уважаемые заместители министров, уважаемые коллеги, для меня большая радость присоединиться к сегодняшней дискуссии, хотя я это делаю виртуально.
OSCE Special Representative and Coordinator for Combating Trafficking in Human Beings. Let me first thank our Belarusian partners for inviting me. Over the past few years, we have built a great and impactful cooperation with Belarus, both at the OSCE and at the UN through ICAT. I'm delighted to address you today, and I look forward to deepening our cooperation in the future. As we celebrate World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, particularly in light of the 20th anniversary of the Palermo Protocol, let me say a few words on where we stand in our fight against human trafficking today and on what is needed going forward. First, the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting global economic turbulence has shown us once more that governments really need to step up their game to combat human trafficking. Although the COVID-19 threat is universal, the negative consequences of this crisis will be disproportionately carried by the most vulnerable in our societies, particularly victims of trafficking and people already living in precarious situations. Second, the biggest priority today is countering the impunity traffickers enjoy. There are some 25 million victims of human trafficking globally, yet in 2019, just a little more than 11,000 traffickers were prosecuted across the globe, roughly one prosecution for every 2,154 victims. Countering impunity means creating more effective strategies to better prosecute more traffickers. And it also means directly discouraging the demand that fosters all forms of exploitation that lead to trafficking. Third and last, the scale of the problem is overwhelming, but if anything, this shows the need for more action, more international cooperation, and more dialogue around this issue. The OSCE has a comprehensive set of commitments and an impressive package of support to offer its participating states. The OSCE stands ready to play its part everywhere in Europe to help bring an end to the exploitation of all people. Thank you, and I wish you a fruitful event.
Также передадим слова.
Also, we would like to thank Mr. Ricci here. I must say that the project portfolio in the field of trafficking in persons would be impossible in Belarus without the support from the EU. That's why it gives me pleasure to invite here Evelina Schulz, head of the Political and Economic Affairs and Mass Media Department of the EU delegation in Belarus.
Colleagues,
distinguished colleagues and friends.
Trafficking in human beings is a grave human rights violation and a serious and organized crime, fueled by the demand for services exacted from the victims and by astronomical profits. The EU has in place a human rights-based, victim-centered, gender-specific and child-sensitive approach, anchored in the ambitious and forward-looking EU Anti-Trafficking Directive. The European Union is committed to work closely with international partners, with Belarus, to promote adherence to international legal standards on trafficking in persons. Trafficking in human beings has devastating effects on the victims due to the nature, circumstances, duration, and consequences of those crimes. Victims need special assistance, support, and protection. Trafficking is not a migration-related phenomena per se. Not all victims are trafficked across borders. Mainly, victims are trafficked internally within their own country. In the European Union, for example, around half of the victims of trafficking in human beings registered are EU citizens. Victims are trafficked for different purposes. The majority of the victims are women and girls who are trafficked mainly for sexual exploitation. Perpetrators take advantage of all structural and contextual vulnerabilities. Trafficking does not happen because people are vulnerable because of their sex, age, or other circumstances. It happens because someone profits or someone exploits the vulnerability of those victims. The EU policy priorities have been set in a dedicated communication. We have three main areas of priorities. First, disrupting the business model and untangling the trafficking chain, and encouraging partners, EU member states, for the criminalization of the use of services extracted from victims of trafficking in human beings. Second, provide better access to and guarantee implement the rights for victims of trafficking. And thirdly, intensify a coordinated and consolidated response both within and outside the European Union. Prevention is the cornerstone of the EU anti-trafficking policy. It is important to stop the crime from happening in the first place. The recently adopted EU Security Union strategy recalls the EU's commitment against this criminal phenomenon. Moreover, the European Union is working on a new strategic approach towards the eradication of trafficking in human beings as part of the Security Union. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Дякую за вашу увагу.
Спасибо большое, господин Рош.
Thank you very much. And today we spoke at length that the World Day today is all about specialists working on the forefront, and along with the concerned state partners, these are also our partners from NGOs. That's why it gives me pleasure to invite to this stage Olga Muchko, Secretary General of the Belarusian Red Cross Society. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and partners. I came here with a speech on 3 pages, but of course all the speakers here all are aware of the phenomenon here, and there's nobody here unconcerned in this audience. That's why I can say that we speak about this problem of trafficking in persons from our own angles and positions of, say, diplomats. The military people speak it from the military position, law enforcers speak about it from their law enforcement position. As a medical professional, I could also outline my position toward the problem of trafficking in persons. In fact, this is a humanitarian and social pandemic, and always, as any medical professional, we need to answer a question how to protect oneself from this. You cannot use a face mask to protect yourself from this, unfortunately. And just like any other disease, any other pandemic, it has its own channels of transition. I can try to anatomize this problem as a doctor. What we try to exert our utmost effort to prevention, of course, identification of victims, of course, treatment. Distinguished deputy ministers already mentioned who need to be treated, the category of people who need to be treated, and of course rehabilitation. And we as an NGO, one of the first, I think my colleagues will confirm that I'm right, we're involved in this work. How could we integrate ourselves as an NGO and find our role in this anti-trafficking effort. Of course, through the first contact efforts, and now in almost every region of Belarus, we have organized services called the Hands of Help. And I'm happy that even after the end of funding, the service continues its operations. And the result of this work can be also quoted in numbers. In the past year alone, the Belarusian Red Cross Society has made its contribution and to the fight with this crime. A total of 90 persons have been identified as victims of trafficking in persons. And to our great horror, when we summarized, 20 people out of 90 were minors, children underage. Like any other disease, it is latent, often latent, and the questions asked here by our respected partners from the IOM mission, you do a colossal and very important work, because the most important thing now is awareness raising. Both young people and experienced social workers, people from the Red Cross Society, often are sometimes surprised and taken aback when the guests look at this problem from a different angle, when they identify new forms and shapes of this evil. What should we be mindful of? My children and grandchildren, when I see a grandchild who is looking at her smartphone and is communicating, I tell her parents to always be mindful who she's communicating with. Perhaps there are many things that we have yet to do, and this work is cut out for most of us. As far as the quality of life is concerned, this problem will remain with us for many, many more years, but we have to be more flexible, more mobile, and more engaged into these efforts and changes happening in our country and with our partners. That's why, once again, I would like to thank, without dwelling too much on statistics and forms of work and the opportunities and participation of all the partners, both within the country, the state institutions, our foreign partners from the UN agencies also, that we managed to make a serious progress in this work in Belarus, and the work which is already progressing forward within the interdisciplinary groups organized in all the regions, and the Belarusian Red Cross Society and its representatives are moderators of this work. The unification resource for all people involved in this, it's very commendable. The only thing that I would like to say now, in this day, to call upon all the people engaged in this anti-trafficking effort not to neglect the situation related to the COVID-19 pandemic, because access to medical services for human trafficking victims who are sometimes ashamed to use this assistance, you need to be more open and more informed, and include into your action plans this nuance of the need to work under the conditions of the COVID-19. I wish that all of you remain healthy, so that none of the people that you know fall victims to this.
Спасибо большое, Ольга
Thank you,
Викторовна.
Olga.
Ольга Викторовна помогла нам перейти плавно на следующую часть, сделав акцент на профилактике, потому что сейчас мы расскажем о новой фазе кампании «Мы учим детей видеть ложь».
Teach your children to see the lies. We have started this campaign a year ago, day to day, and we also did it last year in partnership with UNICEF. And now we started with offline activities. We have prepared some handouts which are targeting parents and the specialists who are differently, one way or another, involved with working with children. We wanted to focus parents and children specialists' attention to this problem, so that they're aware of this and could notice it in time and refer them to the specialized organizations. We asked them to go to the hotline for consultations, as well as we have developed this handout brochure which describes what kind of physical social telltale signs exist that show that your child is in the exploitation situation, and we help parents to teach their children how to see lies. We tell them that there is no typical profile of a criminal, because anybody can be a criminal. That's why you can see a child with an astronaut or photographers or fairy godmother. So we try to tell children not that criminal looks like a criminal, because a criminal can look like anybody else. And this year we decided to place this campaign into a digital format, in other words, internet, where, as Dmitry Sayun said, most of the threats are sourced from, and we moved all our information from offline activities, from handout brochures to a web page of the campaign. All this information is now subdivided into components, and on the same page we offer parents to undergo a test. We ask them to answer questions. This way we check whether their parents know their children, really, whether they're capable of finding if their children are in a precarious situation. In your handouts you can find some of the postcards with the information about this campaign, where you can find QR code, and which will move you to this web page where you can do this test. And please look at the visuals that we have developed, because the campaign is going to have an Instagram page as well, and I'm going to tell you how we are going to invite people there, how people will learn about this page and about this campaign.
And how they can get on our Instagram page.
Можно следующий слайд, пожалуйста. Каждая открытка, которую вы у себя найдете, находит в себе какой-то призыв. Эти открытки, эти изображения, визуалы наша целевая аудитория будет видеть в социальных сетях. И что они призывают? Что они говорят нам? Пришли селфи, дарю за красивые глаза, пойдем поиграем. То есть все те крючки, которые захватывают внимание детей, но мы будем показывать, как это работает на родителях, самим родителям. То есть когда родители будут видеть наша целевая аудитория, взрослые специалисты, которые будут таргетировать, будут видеть эти визуалы в социальных сетях, они будут кликать и переходить, попадать будут на сайт или же на страницу в Instagram, где мы будем рассказывать, что есть такая проблема, что про нее нужно знать, нужно говорить с детьми, нужно научить детей видеть ложь. Потому что, по сути, мы показываем родителям, как ведут себя дети. Мы надеемся, что это сработает. Опять же, приглашаем вас посмотреть этот сайт, поизучать, пройти тест, посмотреть визуалы. Наши открытки эти доступны еще и будут у коллег. В течение мероприятия можно посмотреть и другие визуалы, пощупать руками. Поэтому мы надеемся, что компанию, которую мы продолжаем вместе с Министерством внутренних дел при поддержке Агентства США по международному развитию USAID и МИД Норвегии, будет успешной, и мы действительно сможем предотвратить случаи сексуальной эксплуатации над детьми. Это будет действительно эффективным ответом на новый тренд. И я хочу, говоря про информационную деятельность и про то, что мы должны вместе противостоять этому феномену, и то, что каждый может это сделать, я приглашаю вас, всех тех, кто пользуется Instagram и Facebook, сделать прямо сейчас один шаг, который поможет рассказать о проблеме торговли людьми вашим друзьям и знакомым, взять ваш телефон и зайти в Instagram или Facebook, в зависимости от того, что вы пользуетесь, найти страничку IOM Беларусь, найти иконку с масками, выбрать маску «Всемирный день борьбы с торговлей людьми» и поделиться у себя в сторис. Давайте сделаем это прямо сейчас, у кого есть Instagram, и сделаем простой шаг для того, чтобы показать, что каждый может действительно рассказать об этой проблеме. И отмечайте IOM Беларусь, чтобы мы могли также поделиться. Это легко. Я тоже это делаю.
I'm doing it right now.
И еще приглашаю вас, можно следующий слайд, открыть Facebook, взять вашу заставку, которая стоит, фотографию, и добавить рамку тематическую, тем самым также рассказать о том, что сегодня Всемирный день торговли людьми, сегодня проблема современного рабства еще существует, и рассказывая об этой проблеме, мы также делаем шаг на пути к предотвращению этой проблемы. Кроме этого, мы сегодня, можно, пожалуйста, следующий слайд. В Минске на бизнес-центре «Футурис» можно увидеть символ дня. Если вы будете там, то тоже обратите на это внимание. Это еще один шаг к тому, чтобы рассказать как можно большему количеству людей об этой проблеме, о Всемирном дне торговли людьми, о том, что это касается каждого, и об этом нужно помнить. И прежде чем я в завершении нашей официальной части приглашу выступающих к пресс-подходу и гостей к фуршету, я хочу обозначить несколько моментов. Первое, у нас также доступны тематическая рамка и таблички, с которыми вы можете сфотографироваться на память. Мы потом поделимся со всеми ссылкой. У нас работают фотографы. Находятся рамки в холле, и также наши коллеги помогут вам при желании. И также, если вам больше необходим перевод, то его можно сдать там же, где вы его брали, на специальном столике. Спасибо большое. Я тогда приглашаю выступающих к пресс-подходу и гостей к фуршету. Спасибо большое.
And also we can have a cocktail party now.